today's subscriber deck review is coming to you live from Big Dog himself. And if that name sounds familiar, he's one of the Lotus 11 son of a guns. So that's probably where you've heard that before. He sent me a Mirri Weatherlight Duelist list. Yeah, so we got Big Dog himself sending in a Mirri Weatherlight Duelist list. And we will read the sum up of it here. Let's get that pulled up. Okay, so he sent me this. The deck I'm sending you is my latest build I have in paper, and I really enjoy it. It's a Maze of Ith Pillow Fort deck. The goal is to tutor Maze of Ith, Yavimaya, tap Mirri, and chill until I can build a board of unblockable creatures. I will welcome any advice, suggestions, or your comments. That sounds sick. So, from what I'm hearing, let's see what Mirri does first of all, just so we can get a taste of like what he's going for. 1 a green and a white for a 3/2 legendary creature cat warrior. First strike, whenever Mirri Weatherlight Duelist attacks, each opponent can't block with more than 1 creature this combat. As long as Mirri Weatherlight Duelist is tapped, no more than 1 creature can attack you each combat. So Mirri is the go wide specialist. She is so good at going wide. Also pretty good at Voltron, honestly. Just good at making people not want to swing at you, which is super, super important in most combat-based strategies. So let's jump into the artifacts. We've got Arcane Signet, just a classic mana ramp. Glaring Spotlight's a great one in here. 1 colorless for an artifact. Creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the target of spells or abilities, as though they didn't have hexproof. Super good. And then you can pay 3, sacrifice Glaring Spotlight. Creatures you control gain hexproof and are unblockable until end of turn. Glaring Spotlight's one of those cards where I don't understand why it doesn't see more play, because it's a very, very good card. Especially in this deck. It's a super good one. Hammer of Nazan, 4 colorless for a legendary equipment that equips for 4. Whenever Hammer of Nazan or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to a creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and is indestructible. Equipped for 4. Hammer of Nazan is a insane card. I'm actually working on a 8.5 Tails Voltron deck right now. That's probably going to be a pickup for that deck, because that's so good. That is such a powerful ability. I also really need Sigarda's aid as well. Shadow Spear, another really good one. 1 colorless for an equipment that equips for 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and lifelink. Pay 1, permanents your opponent control, lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Yeah, you really don't know like pleasure until someone plays like Heroic Intervention and then you Shadow Sphere and they're like, oh, they just didn't see it. Best feeling. Soul Ring, great card. Springleaf Drum, mana ramp, but it is something of note to talk about because you can tap Mirri with it, which is actually really powerful to be able to manipulate whether or not Mirri's tapped. So that's a really good one in here for mana ramp. Swiftfoot Boots, classic. Sword of Feast and Famine. 3 for an equipment, it equips for 2. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from black and from green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card and you untap all lands you control. Not bad. Not a terrible card. Vidalcan Ori. You may cast spells as though they had flash. Just a good card. Okay, so we got creatures. Allosaurus Shepherd. I don't think you know how much I want this to be called Allosaurus Rex. Just because I always see the dinosaur and I feel like that's what it's going to be called, and it's not. 1 green for a 1/1 elf shaman. Allosaurus Shepherd can't be countered. Green spells you control but can't be countered. That's so powerful. 4 and 2 green. Until end of turn, each elf you control has a base power and toughness of 5/5 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to the other types. Commander's Plate would be great. I agree with Zonimi 100%. Commander's Plate would be very good in here. Arbor Elf, just good mana ramp. Archivist of Ogma, 1 and a white for a 2/2 flash. Whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain 1 life and you draw 1 card. Just a good card. That'll just draw you some cards. Battle Mammoth, 3 and 2 green for a 6/5 trample. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Oh my god, this is great. Okay, well, Battle Mammoth's probably going to be on one of my obscure card highlights because that's awesome. Beast Whisperer, 2 and 2 green for a 2/3. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. A great card draw. Elvish Reclaimer, 1 green for a 1/2. Elvish Reclaimer gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 or more land cards in your graveyard. Pay 2, tap it, sacrifice a land, search your library for... hold on a second. Search your library for a land card, put it into the battlefield, tap, and shuffle your library. So that's probably one of the best cards in the deck, I'm guessing, because that tutors up your Maze of Ith. That's exactly what you're trying to do. So that's perfect in here. That's super good. Eternal Witness, 1 and 2 green for a 2/1. When it comes in, you get to return a card from your graveyard to your hand. Love Eternal Witness. Grand Abolisher, 2 white for a 2/2. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. There we go. So this is interesting. It's got almost a slight pillow forty, but like the cards fill a pillow fort role and a stacks role a little bit. You know what I mean? Like cards like Grand Abolisher and like Shadow Spear, and what was the other one that I was looking at where I was like, that kind of feels like it's filling both. Activist of Ogma, it's kind of feeling like Staxy a little bit, where it's like, hey, if you search, I'm going to get benefits off this. You playing the game is going to benefit me. But you're also card drawing, so you're fueling the deck with that one. And then Grand Abolisher is just making it hard for them to interrupt your swings and interrupt your strategy. So they make sense in here. It's just interesting how they all like walk this line of being like Pillow Fort and Staxy a little bit. Jadit Ojenin of Efrava. I love this card. 3 and 3 green for a 5/5 Forest Walk. When it attacks or blocks, create a 2/2 green cat warrior creature token with Forest Walk. That's probably one of the best creatures in here. Just spitting out Forest Walkers is exactly what you need. Juniper Order Druid. 2 and a green for a 1/1. You can tap it to untap target land. Play this ability only as an interrupt. That seems great. Untap Maze of Ith. You get multiple Maze of Ith uses. That seems like enough for me. Knight of Autumn, 1 a green and a white for a 2/1. When Knight of Autumn enters the battlefield, choose one. Put 2 1/1 counters on Knight of Autumn. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain 4 life. Oh. There we go. Knight of Autumn's great. Knight of the Reliquary, on the other hand, is fantastic. 1 a green and a white for a 2/2. Knight of the Reliquary gets +1/+1 for each land in your graveyard. Tap it, sacrifice a forest or plains, search your library for a land card, and put it into the battlefield. Again, we're getting Maze of Ith, and that's the end of the story. Crows and Restore, one of my favorite cards, by the way. 2 and a green for a 1/2. You can tap it to untap target land. If there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you can tap it to untap 3 lands. One of my favorite mana ramp cards. It's a super strong one. Lion Sash, 1 and a black for a 1/1. Pay 1 white, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, put a 1/1 counter on Lion Sash. Equip creature gets +1/+1 for each 1/1 counter on Lion Sash. This seems great in here. It shuts off graveyard strategies. It makes the equipped creature bigger when you finally do go in for that Forest Walk swing. I was waiting for it. I was wondering where the Lumbering Satyr was. Lumbering Satyr is 2 and 2 green for a 5/4. All creatures gain Forest Walk. Love this card. Super, super good. Rishkar is great mana ramp. Sarinth the Viper's Fang, 2 and 2. Oh, I love this card. This is in my Alondro deck. 2 and 2 green for a 3/4. Other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. Sure. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. Even more sure. Pay 1 and tap it. Untap target creature or land you control. This might be, other than like the things that are tutoring out Maze of Ith, the best card in the deck. It's doing everything you want. It manipulates if Mirri's untapped or tapped or not. It untaps Maze of Ith. It gives Mirri Hexproof and protects him. It gives all your attacking stuff Death Touch, making him even harder to block. Talk about a card that's perfect for a deck. Seasoned Dungeoneer, 3 and a white for a 3/4. When Seasoned Dungeoneer enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. Whenever you attack, target attacking cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard gains protection from creatures until end of turn. It explores. Oh, and he's a warrior. Okay, that's cool. So whenever you swing with Seasoned Dungeoneer, you literally just get to make Mirri unblockable and have it explore, which could definitely win you a game, especially because they can only block with one thing, and then you're like, sorry, Mirri's unblockable. Seaboard Muse, fantastic card. 3 and 2 green for a 2/4. Untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. Super good. Shalai, Voice of Plenty. I actually forgot about this card. This is a super good card. 3 and a white for a 3/4 flying. You, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures you control have Hexproof. That's already not bad. 4 and 2 green. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Yeah, Shalai is great. She's a super, super cool card. Uvenwald Hydra. 4 and 2 green. Does this get you any land? Oh, okay, then totally. I like this card. I'm not a huge Uvenwald Hydra fan if the deck isn't about a land specifically. My friend ran this in like his Yarok deck, where it didn't really run any lands that were like worth like Maze of Ith, like a game altering land. Most of the time it would get like a shock or like a duel or something. So in most decks I'm not a huge fan of this card, and here I really like it. It gets you Maze of Ith. 4 and 2 green for an XX reach. When it comes into play, you get to tutor a land into play, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Weathered Wayfarer, 1 white for a 1/1. Pay 1 white, tap it, search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Activate only if an opponent controls more lands than you. Very good card. Weathered Wayfarer is a extremely good card. You can just get any land as long as they have more lands than you. And that includes Maze of Ith and Yavimaya, so. And Zap and Drill, 100%. 5 and 2 green for a 4/6 reach. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. You can pay 2 Phyrexian green, sacrifice 2 other creatures, put an indestructible counter on Zap and Drill. It's very good. Like, when you finally do go in for that swing, this will probably win you the game. We've got enchantments. Aurification, 2 and 2 white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature deals damage to you, put a gold counter on it. Each creature with a gold counter on it is a wall in addition to its other types. When Aurification leaves play, remove all gold counters from all creatures. Aurification is very cool. It's just a pillow 40 card. Just not let it. You don't want people to be attacking you. Authority of the Councils, 1 white for an enchantment. Creatures you control enter the battlefield tap. Shuts off haste, which is great. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you gain 1. It makes aggro way worse, so that's very good. Bear Umbra is 2 and 2 green for an enchantment. Enchant Aura. Enchant creature gets +2/+2 and has whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control, and it has totem armor. That's great. Just a super good card. It's like a pseudo Seedborn Muse, but it also protects the creature it's enchanted to, which is fantastic. Blessed Sanctuary, 3 and 2 white for an enchantment. Prevent all non-combat damage that will be dealt to you and creatures you control. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white unicorn creature token. That seems fine. You're building up a big board state of unicorns, and you're also preventing like big fireballs, bane fires, blasphemous axe, stuff like that from happening, which is really nice. Concordant Crossroads, of course. It gives your creatures haste, or gives creatures haste. 1 green to give creatures haste, which is really useful, especially in this deck if you're late game and you have a bunch of mana. I'm not sure if there's an infinite mana in here, but there's definitely ways to make a bunch of mana. You can just pour out a bunch of creatures that have Forest Walk, drop your Yavimaya, and bash face. Court of Grace is very good. 2 and 2 white for an enchantment. When it comes into play, you become the Monarch, and then at the beginning of your end step, you get a 1/1 white Spirit if you're not the Monarch, and a 4/4 white Angel with flying if you are the Monarch. Super good card. Defense of the Heart. Isn't that a song? 3 and a green for an enchantment. During your upkeep, if 1 or more opponents controls 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart, search your library for up to 2 creature cards and put them into play, then shuffle your library. It's a good one. It's a definite decent card. Luminarch Ascension. 1 and a white for an enchantment. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if you didn't lose life that turn, put a quest counter on Luminarch. 1 and a white, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Activate only if it has 4 or more quest counters on it. Luminarch Ascension's awesome. This is hands down one of my favorite cards of all time. Back when I was playing Standard in Zendikar, that was seriously one of the craziest cards. Sylvan Library, of course. 1 and a green for an enchantment. Pay 0, draw 2 cards, then choose any 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put the card back on top of your library. Just an insane card. You just get tons of card advantage from green, which is awesome. Wilderness Reclamation. 3 and a green. Enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. Great card. A pseudo seed. If you can't afford Seedborn Muse, just get Wilderness Reclamation. It'll feel very similar. The creature part will not be as fun, but it'll feel very similar being able to use your mana. Let's move on to instants. We got Beast Within, 2 and a green for destroy target permanent. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast. Classic removal. Crop rotation seems fantastic in here. If you could turn 1 crop rotation, it's probably exactly what you're trying to do. 1 green for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a land. Search your library for a land and put it onto the battlefield. Crop rotation's very good. Enlightened Tutor, 1 white for an instant. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Or put it on top of it, sorry. Super good in here. You can get these big buff things. You can get any of these enchantments that are helping you out. Super good. Generous Gift, same thing as Beast Within, except in white. 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature. Hunter's Insight's great. 2 and a green for an instant. Choose target creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or a planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. Jahira's Respite, 4 and a green for an instant. My cousin just showed me this card. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of creatures attacking you. Put those cards into the battlefield. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to you this turn. This one's an interesting one for me. I don't know if that's necessary in this deck. That's the only one I've seen so far where I'm like, I don't really like that too much. Because in this deck, you have so much pillow fort stuff that it doesn't feel like you're going to be being attacked by that many creatures ever. Especially at 5 mana, you probably already have Mirri out. You probably already have a couple of pillow fort pieces out. Yeah, I don't know. I would maybe take out Jaheira's Respite for a Ghostly Prison. Personally, like I think I would try that and just see how it goes. I think Ghostly Prison would be great in here. Tamiyo's Safekeeping is just a super good card. 1 green for an instant. Target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. You gain 2 life. Yeah, that's just gonna protect your Maze of Ith. Like essentially, it'll protect your commander if it needs to. It'll protect a creature if it needs to. Probably 90% of the time, this is protecting from land destruction, so they can't get rid of your maze. And then a Worldly Tutor. Just another tutor. Now we're getting into the lands, so I'm gonna kind of skip over the ones that aren't super important, and we'll talk about the ones that are kind of super interactive with how the deck works. Gavity Township seems great. Puts a 1/1 counter on each of your creatures. If you've got Lumbering Satyr in play and Yavimaya, everything's unblockable, so that seems really good. Ice Flow. Hey, I just put this on one of my videos. Hell yeah. Ice Flow's sick. I like that one a lot. Core Haven seems fantastic in here. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to target attacking creature or dealt by target attacking creature. That seems fantastic. Core Haven's just like another Maze of Ith, which is exactly what you want. And speaking of the devil, this is the entire point of the deck right here. Maze of Ith. It's a land, does not tap for mana. You can tap it, untap target attacking creature, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to and dealt by that creature this turn. So you completely remove a creature from combat. So this is just pretty much a fog that's just repeatable for 1 creature on a land. It's extremely powerful. Apparently you can get one for $5. So I'm probably gonna go pick up a Maze of Ith. That's what the whole deck's about, is that. So Maze of Ith, and then this little card down here, Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. Each land is a forest in addition to its other types. So what this guy's going for is you play Mirri, you play all these things that kind of make it hard for people to swing at you, and then you build up a fat board state of creatures. You play your Zapandrels, you play your Lion Sashes, you play your Knights of the Reliquary, you play your early game utility that can kind of scale late game, and then your stuff like Zapandrel that can just completely bring home a game. And then you're really hoping to drop like a Lumbering Satyr to give all creatures Forest Walk. Then you have Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth in play. All lands are forest, all your creatures are unblockable. Bash face. So you're just trying to build up this big board state, and then pretty much bash through with Forest Walk. If that doesn't work, there's a ton of evasion. There's plenty of like flyers and different ways to evade in this deck. There is what was the other card that had Forest Walk? There's Jajit, which is definitely another way you could just win the game, is just start bashing people with Jajit and all the cats that he spits out. So that seems like a really good alternative way to win, and it's also on flavor to have another cat be the way to win. I like that as well. So the only things here, so if I had to say some stuff about this, I love this deck. First off, this looks fun as hell to play. Do you ever have problems with not drawing enough land with 35 lands? Because I run like 39 and I have that problem like nonstop. But like everyone knows how Magic is. Some people just have it. Some people have that dog in them, dude, and they can just draw perfect lands all the time. So that's really here nor there. The thing I was talking about with what card was it? Jaheira's Respite? Jaheira's Respite. I think you should take out Jaheira's Respite and replace it with Ghostly Prison and just see how it goes for you. I think that would be one really good move for this deck. I think a couple more swords wouldn't hurt you. Like, swords are just very strong, and then the fact that they trigger on combat and you have all these Forest Walk mechanics and stuff, a couple more swords I think would be pretty good, actually. Oh, actually, I missed sorceries. I'm so sorry. Let's do sorceries. We've got Board Wipe, Austere Command, Card Draw, Mana Ramp, Pyrrh's Whim, 3 and a green for a sorcery. For each player, choose friend or foe. Each player searches their library for a land card, puts it into the battlefield tapped, and then shuffles their library. Each foe sacrifices an artifact or enchantment. That seems great. You just get to get Maze of Ith. Promise of Loyalty, 5 and a white for a sorcery. Each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sacrifices the rest. Each of those creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. That's great in here. Sylvan Scrying, get your Maze of Ith for sure. Attempt of Discovery. Does Attempt of Discovery get lands? It does. It just gets any land. That'll, again, give you a Maze of Ith and 3 visits. We'll give you a forest card. I don't think Yavimaya counts as a forest card, though. So what's the 3 visits for? Unless I'm just being like super dense, which is definitely possible. Super big brain on the Tamiyo's Safekeeping, by the way. I didn't even read that it did permanent. Send me your decks, all right? I want them. Rough hair.